start with the stadium situation.
Yeah.
It's obviously been a big topic. Just how do you view the challenge that you're going to have? And Eric talked about, the need to kind of focus on the positive, things like that. You're the guy that's going to be the one kind of be in the whatever. You're going to talk to the players about that and kind of get that message across.
Yeah, look, I do think it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's going to be a fun, exciting, good challenge. I mean, first of all, appreciative of the Yankees and MLB for being so accommodating, allowing us to go over there. We're going to do everything we can to make the most of it. I know that we have a great group of people that do the ins and outs behind the scenes on a daily basis for many years, and that's going to transfer over. It's just going to be a little different being outdoors now. The challenges that everybody are talking about are probably whether it's the heat and the rain. I personally think the heat will be more talked about than the rain. Just having played in the Florida State League, knowing that you get some rainouts, you get some rain delays, you miss out on BP, that's not the worst thing in the world to happen over a course of 81 games or whatever it is. So, challenge, I'm going to bet on our group. I'm going to bet on our guys that are going to embrace it, and we'll come together and do everything we can to make the most of it. And I know that, whether, from Stu to Matt to Brian and certainly Eric and myself, whatever I can do, we will be as accommodating to our players, their families, as we possibly can.
I mean, you kind of handle the future uncertainty as well. I mean, guys are going to see what's happening and wonder about what comes next as far as just keeping them focused on the present.
I think it's just that message. I mean, the second we know of something beyond the 2025, the players are going to be the first to know. We just don't know. It does sound like there's some better news here recently locally with some of the voting, so that's a good thing. But I know once we get into spring training and we kind of check that box of getting into Steinbrenner and that complex, the next conversation is going to be, well, what are we doing in 2026? We just got to wait for some answers.
Once you got through kind of the real-world implications that are more important than everything that happened, at what point did you stop and say, well, this is going to impact us in a big way in 2025, you guys as a club?
I realized that as it was happening during the storm. I mean, when I saw it, I think I was like many people, I didn't think it was real. And then when I did see it, and we went to Gainesville to my in-laws and then drove down the next morning and saw 3/4 of the roof gone, your mind just starts racing and wondering what is going to take place. I certainly didn't appreciate the magnitude of it in the moment. But I'm happy that we have a home and that we're going to be able to play in the Bay Area. I think that was the most important thing. Certainly, given what has taken place over the last couple months there, I'm glad that we're going to be able to represent our community by staying local.
Do you think it'll take a different type of motivation or anything you'll have to do, or you have to talk to the players more? Because some guys are going to complain.
Yeah.
It's any natural group you're going to have that. Some guys are going to act like they're annoyed. I mean, I think that'll be something you'll have to try to do.
Yeah, look, this is not COVID. It's definitely not. But the change and the transition that we're going to have to make in this organization is going to be similar to maybe what 30 other teams had to do in 2020. We did a really good job embracing that, and I think we can pull from maybe some of those experiences. And we want our players, and I certainly am going to hear what they have to say and want them to have their voices and be as accommodating as possible. But there is going to have to be, some tunnel vision put on and some motivation, some inner motivation and group motivation. That is it ideal? Is it perfect? Probably not. It's not going to be, but we can still make the most of a tough situation.
What do you make of the change from an offensive environment perspective, especially maybe for your left-handed hitters?
Yeah. I hope it's as good as everybody what they're talking about. I mean, runs were tough to come by. We talked about it more than I would have liked last year. A lot of belief in our offensive group. Really liked the way some of the guys finished. In September, highlighted by some young players between Junior and Johnny Aranda. We know what Brandon and Yanni can do, and I think you're just adding to that playing outdoors at that ballpark. I mean, our venue has maybe not been the friendliest to left-handed hitters over, the 10 years I've been there. I think we could see a really quick turnaround real quick, and if we get some of those wins that we've seen in the past, that's even going to make it more friendly for righties and lefties.
What's it like for you seeing Tito back?
I'm excited. We got to see him in Boston about 2 weeks ago he got some award that he probably asked to get himself, but got to hang out with him for a night in Boston. And very similar to kind of how I felt, or I think a lot of us felt about Bochy coming back. Baseball's better with both of them in it, and I'm glad that he decided. I'm glad he's healthy. I did not see it coming that quick. I thought for sure he'd be back because I don't know what else the hell he would do. So to have him back is good for all of us.
Have you gotten a look at all that Rokas Sasaki, that video, or anything else? Any thoughts on him as a pitcher?
Super talented pitcher, super talented player. Really put himself on the map there, in the World Baseball Classic. Wish him nothing but the best, and I'll wait and see what happens with him moving forward. I think we're all waiting.
You mentioned the possibility of rain delays in the home games. You guys were kind of the pioneer on the opener concept. Can that opener concept kind of help in that sort of herky-jerky? You're not really sure when the rain's going to come and how long it's going to last.
I think it can. I mean, look, we've done that here recently. When we're, if we're in Baltimore, or we're in Boston, and we think that there's a chance of rain, or we're going to have a delay, call it 45 minutes to an hour in a ball game, we've kicked that idea around. So I think we'll put our heads together. We haven't started having those conversations, but I think everything will be on the table for us to discuss. And I'd like to think we'll be better in July than maybe that we were in March.
I know the deal's not final yet, but to add a catcher like Danny Jansen, who's got some experience, pop, leadership.
Yeah, look, I've always appreciated watching him from the Toronto dugout, or the recently the Boston dugout. He goes about his business the right way. He's a pro. Have had some conversations with him that really enjoyed. Think that if that were to happen, we'd be fortunate to having a veteran backstop that has shown a lot of talent. I mean, I know he's had some injuries, some freak injuries, and they're broken hands and wrist in there with some foul balls, and maybe part of being a catcher. But like to think that if we were fortunate enough to land a player like that, he's going to really add to our production on the field. And having talked to him, I know he'll add to our clubhouse dynamic.
I think kind of the potential of your rotation, adding McClanahan back, that kind of took shape toward the end of the year.
Look, I think that's the most exciting thing that we were talking about heading into the offseason. It's definitely this offseason going into spring training. When you add, you're adding a 1-1. And I know there's going to be limitations and talks about workload and all that. We will take it step by step with Shane, but I mean, there's nobody more talented than him. We just saw, Tarek Skubal win the Cy Young. I think Shane and him, there's a lot of similarities there. And then you talk about what the strides that Taj made, that Boz made, Drew Rasmussen healthy, Jeff Springs being healthy, Zach Littell in the body of work that he put together. I don't want to leave anybody out, but it's probably our most exciting part about our club.
You mentioned Eric told us the other day that you guys made the group decision to put him back as a starter, or prepare him as a starter. What kind of went into that decision?
A lot of conversation with him, with his, he had with his wife, and that this is something that Ras is really committed to. I know Eric has talked to Danny a lot about this. We care a lot about Ras, the person, the work that he put in to get back. I know the injury history and some of the concerns there, but if you're going to bet on somebody to carry a workload like that with his work ethic, he'd be the guy to do it. So excited to see where we come into spring training and how that competition unfolds.
Morel was another guy who kind of had an uncertain role heading into the offseason. Where do you maybe see him fitting in, and what are your hopes of him bouncing back?
I know that he went into the offseason pretty excited to get to work. I think he learned a lot about himself through ups and downs between Chicago and Tampa. This is a guy that is incredibly talented that we want to find a way to get the most out of. He has talked about working with on his swing and some things that he learned the last 2 months with us that he wants to take in. I know he works alongside Willie Adames in the offseason. Can't pick a better guy to go train with as you build up. I don't think we totally found out that exact position where is it second, is it third, is it left, is it, we'll find a lot of that stuff and see how the roster unfolds in spring training, but really happy that we have him come into camp with us.
As far as Junior, what you saw,
Yeah.
as he kind of got more comfortable and full season of him knowing his way around the league a little bit, some of the numbers that are out there, the
Yeah.
projections look really good. What's some reasonable expectation?
I don't know. He exceeded my expectations. I coming in and watching him play for 2.5 months with us, or 2 months, what it was, above and beyond what I was anticipating. And I'm not sliding the player. I mean, the defense was unbelievable. The hit ability, the adjustments that he made, the knack and the desire of wanting the big moment in the game, and then coming through. So we got a very special player that's incredibly talented. I do think that phrase "sky's the limit." It's on him. He's worked really hard this offseason. We've had Joe Benj, we've had Brian King go down and watch him train. Rodney Linares has been there with him weekly. I think he's getting close to playing in Escogido. And then I will go and make a trip here probably right after the first of the year to go watch him play. But excited where, the work that he's putting in. I think he learned a lot about himself, and one of the many things that was special about Junior is the way that he interacted with some of the veteran Dominican superstars that came in and played against us, and the messages that he received from them, he really took to heart because he's put to work this offseason.
That first base league-wide, the slugging percentage is at a low since like the 80s or something. It felt like there's a time last couple days because you knew what a first baseman looked like. We saw Sean Casey out here, like that was the guy, right?
Yep.
Bang. That sort of changed in recent years, right? You have sort of different profile of first baseman. Slugging maybe isn't like the primary priority. What do you sort of think of the change in what maybe the everyday first baseman looks like today?
I think that the biggest change is hitting's hard. Pitching is so dominant, and I didn't know if it goes to that one position, but I think teams they're going to do everything they can to maximize their roster. If they're going to put a defense first guy over there, teams have valued that and found that value. I mean, we got a guy in Yandy that he gets there with on base. Brandon plays first base. He gets there probably with more slug. So we've got a complement of the two. I mean, we want them both in the lineup. I'm not overly concerned where they're playing as long as they're, being able to be the offensive producers that they've shown for many years that they have.
Going back to Jansen for a second, I'm sure this wasn't why you signed, but the fact that he went through the Dunedin experience and playing for the Blue Jays, that's probably a little added benefit, right?
We talked about it. We flew up and met with him and met his wife and had breakfast, and a lot of people have kind of played a part in getting to know him really well, and throughout those conversations that was talked about. I mean, what the Blue Jays went through starting in Dunedin and the Buffalo, there was a lot of transitions in there, and I don't think that we're going to be as challenged as maybe they were because of playing out of their country without their fans. We're going to have our fans. I'd like to think a lot of them there showing up for us, but he is going to be a guy that potentially that we can lean on for some of the experiences that he went through, and I'm all ears. We will all be all ears.
Eric mentioned Caballero might play some winter ball outfield.
He's out. He's playing now. I've actually exchanged. We've missed each other talking on the phone, a couple text messages, but we're going to leave. He's so athletic. Why not let him explore it? If there's an avenue for him to get at bats while he's out there, see what it's looked like. I think he's played 2 or 3 games out there, maybe late games when he was with Seattle. Spoke to him about it before the season ended. And the best thing about Cabby's, he wants to win. He'll do whatever he needs to help us win. Certainly he wants to play, and he's an elite defender on the dirt, but I think that could transition in the outfield and in a pinch. I mean, we got some really good outfield options as we are right now, but to have that flexibility for late game maneuvers, keep your options open.
Obviously, with Siri being traded, it sounds like DeLuca's going to get the lion's share of work in center field. What did you see from them, both defensively and offensively?
Johnny was as consistent defensively as any player that we had. I mean, I look at what him and Taylor Walls did. They're just game changing, and they're consistent. And Walsey, he makes a lot of the highlight reel plays. Johnny gets there with the consistent ground coverage, arm strength. So I do think it's a good opportunity for Johnny, and I think it was challenging for him to get going offensively. You look at the broken hand or wrist that he had in spring training, then some of the inconsistencies with playing time, with what we were running out on a daily basis. He wasn't out there all the time. If there is some more consistency, there's some pop in that bat I think we're going to see.
Bill, this is kind of an open
you could probably go forever. Terry Frank talked about in the game. What does Tito bring to a team like a young team like the Rams that he can kind of maybe work some Tito type stuff?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think he's the best in baseball. He's the best in the business at it. Whether it's a young team or a very veteran-based team, he knows how to get the most out of his players and interact with his players better than anybody. This situation coming on Cincinnati, outside looking in, there are some similarities to maybe what he took on in Cleveland. I would guess that Cincinnati will quickly become a force in Major League Baseball with him at the lead.
Is there a point where you're like, your interactions with him, you're like, oh my God, this is the guy that I need to watch and learn from? Or is it just that you always knew Tito coming up? Or is there like any memories that strike you as a good way to encapsulate what he does?
Yeah, I mean, look, getting to play for him and watching how he managed that roster that was incredibly talented, a lot of personalities. And look, I saw in 2007, 2008, 2010, and it was kind of cool to see that documentary come out. And just a little bit of the documentary, it's the exact same guy that I had 3 or 4 years later. It's the exact same guy that he is now. When I, worked for him as a coach in Cleveland and hanging out with him last week, it's very impressive to me that Tito's going to be authentic and genuine, true to himself, and he's done it for many years.
How does he seem because at the end of the time in Cleveland, you're like, okay, he has some health problems or whatever. But then spending time with him now, does he seem energized?
Yeah, he overplayed the health problems though. Yeah. No, he seems healthy. He looks good. We'll check with him come All-Star break. See how he's doing.
The way you put that bullpen together last year kind of emerged.
No, I didn't put it together. I give him. I wish I had a hand in that.
Made you look good.
There you go.
Together last year.
Incredibly talented group of players that really came together. I mean, look, we lost some good arms. Eric had some really tough decisions to make there at the deadline. Albeit with Phil, who went on and did some good things with New York. Jason Adam was our rock for us for multiple seasons down there. But whether it was Uceta or Manny Rodriguez, Hunter Biggie, Mason Montgomery, these guys, I mean, they really came in and stepped up for us. A lot to be excited about. I mean, I compliment our starting rotation, and that's highlighted by guys coming back from injuries that we have a track record. A lot of these guys did not have a track record in the bullpen, but we got to be very similarly excited about them for what they showed the last 6-8 weeks of the season.
Going back to this stadium situation, you talked about the rain, how it rain delays can affect BP, whatever. You mentioned the heat. What are the specific ways that heat affects what you guys are doing?
Look, we've been fortunate to play in the Trop for the last so many years. So when we all go on the road, we feel the heat. We had a series, I believe, in Atlanta and Pittsburgh where this past most recent season was the hottest that I could recall. And you have to manage your workload a little bit. I mean, I think I'll probably talk to some other managers. I'll call Brian Snicker and get some ideas of what they do. I know Brandon Hyde and Camden, that can get really hot at that ballpark. And you're enough in the summer playing on the road. You see how teams manage their workload, shave off batting practice. But I think first and foremost, you got to listen to your players, right? And we try to work really hard and try to do that really, really well. So listen to the players and try to let them drive what they know what their bodies need, and we'll do a good job of that.
Does the uncertainty affect any moves the team can make, transactions, anything like that, or is that you're not hearing that?
I don't think so, but that's a great question for the guy that's getting ready to sit in the seat. So if you're ready for him, he's right here.